They cast her into the dragon pit as punishment. The dragons chose her as their princess. Emma Stone stood in the center of the Grand Council chamber. Her hands were bound behind her back with metal chains. Around her, representatives from 20 different alien species watched with cold eyes. She tried to keep her breathing steady, but her heart pounded against her ribs. "Commander Stone," the head counselor spoke in a deep voice. His blue skin reflected the harsh lights above. "You stand accused of stealing the sacred dragon tears from the Scaroth temple. How do you answer?" The image showed her taking 3 glowing crystals from a stone pedestal. Emma watched in horror. That was not her. It could not be her. She was in her quarters that night writing reports. "The evidence is clear," a Scaroth warrior hissed from his seat. His red scales glinted like blood. "The human stole from us. She must face dragon justice. Your door logs show you left your quarters at exactly the time shown in this video. 3 witnesses saw you near the temple district." "Please," she said, hearing her voice crack. "Give me time to investigate. Let me prove my innocence." When someone steals from the dragon temples, there is only one punishment: the dragon pit. When someone committed a terrible crime, they threw that person into the pit. The dragons ate the guilty. Sometimes, if the legends were true, the dragons spared the innocent. But Emma had never heard of anyone walking out of that pit alive. "This is murder," Emma whispered. "You are sentencing me to death without a fair trial." Behind her, she heard whispers and murmurs. Not one person spoke up for her. Not one person defended her. In the holding cell, Emma sat on the cold metal bench. She thought about the past 6 months. She had been working on Valor Prime Station, helping negotiate peace treaties between species that had been fighting for generations. She was good at her job. She understood people, understood how to find common ground. Then Lieutenant Victor Hayes joined her team. He was charming and friendly. He offered to help with her cases. Emma trusted him. She let him access her files and her security codes. Now she understood. Victor had used her codes to enter the temple. Victor had stolen the dragon tears. Victor had framed her perfectly. But why? What did he gain from destroying her life? The cell door opened. 2 Scaroth warriors entered. Their scales were dark green and their eyes were yellow like a cat's eyes. They wore armor that looked like it was made from dragon bones. "Time to go, human," one of them said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. They put more chains on Emma, chains on her wrists, chains on her ankles. They led her through the station corridors. Other station workers stopped and stared. Some looked sad, some looked angry. Emma recognized faces of people she had helped, people she had thought were friends. None of them said goodbye. The transport ship was small and dark. Emma sat in a cage for the entire journey. The Scaroth warriors did not speak to her. They treated her like she was already dead. 3 days later, they arrived at the Scaroth homeworld. The planet was covered in red mountains and deep valleys. The sky was orange and 2 suns burned overhead. The ship landed near a massive gathering of Scaroth citizens. Thousands of them had come to watch. The warriors pulled Emma out of the ship. The crowd roared with anger. Someone threw a rock. It hit Emma's shoulder and she gasped in pain. "Dragon thief," they shouted. "Betrayer, let the dragons feast." The dragon pit. It was so deep that Emma could not see the bottom. Hot air rose from below, carrying the smell of sulfur and old bones. The head warrior removed Emma's chains. "Any last words, human?" She looked at the endless orange sky. "I am innocent," she said clearly. "I did not steal from you, and one day the truth will prove it." "May the dragons judge you," the warrior said. Then he pushed. Emma fell into darkness. The wind screamed past her ears. Above, the circle of orange sky grew smaller and smaller. She was falling into the earth itself, falling toward the ancient dragons that waited below. Emma closed her eyes and prayed that death would be quick. Emma hit the ground hard, but instead of rocks, she landed in something soft. Sand. Warm, red sand that cushioned her fall. She lay there for a long moment, gasping for air. Every part of her body hurt, but nothing felt broken. Slowly, she opened her eyes. The pit was not completely dark. Strange, glowing moss grew on the walls, giving off a soft blue light. The cavern was enormous, bigger than any building Emma had ever seen. Ancient stone pillars rose from the ground, carved with symbols Emma did not recognize. In the distance, she could see the shapes of huge nests made from rocks and old bones. Emma pushed herself to her feet. Her uniform was torn and dirty. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead. She wiped it away and looked around carefully. Where were the dragons? The stories said they attacked immediately, tearing prisoners apart with their teeth and claws. A low rumble echoed through the cavern. The ground beneath Emma's feet vibrated. She spun around, searching for the source of the sound. Three massive shapes emerged from the shadows. Dragons, real dragons. The first dragon was silver, its scales shimmering like moonlight on water. It was old, Emma could tell by the way it moved. Slow and careful, with wisdom in its ancient eyes. The dragon was as big as a house. The second dragon was smaller but looked fierce. Its scales were red and orange like burning coals. Scars covered its body, marks from old battles. This dragon moved like a warrior, muscles rippling under its armored skin. The third dragon was the smallest, though still twice Emma's size. Its scales were pale blue, almost white. It walked with curiosity, tilting its head as it studied Emma. This one seemed young compared to the others. Emma backed away slowly. Her heart hammered in her chest. This was it. This was how she would die, but the dragons did not attack. They stopped a few feet away from her. The silver dragon lowered its massive head until its eye was level with Emma's face. The eye was deep purple, filled with intelligence. Then Emma heard a voice in her mind. It was not a sound. It was like a thought that was not her own. "Do not fear, small one. We will not harm you. I have lived for 800 years in this pit. Now I am forgotten." She sat down in the sand, staring at the three dragons. "You are not going to eat me. You carry no guilt for that crime. No one else would listen. If you are innocent too, why do they keep you trapped?" We could sense her pure heart. We protected her instead of devouring her. The rulers above were furious. They sealed us down here as punishment. We taught her our language and our ways, but she was human like you. She grew sick. The air down here is hard for your kind. She died in her sleep. We buried her in the sacred chamber. The dragon's hot breath washed over Emma. Many have fallen into this pit since then, some guilty, some innocent. We saved who we could, but we cannot save everyone. The fall itself kills many. You were lucky. I am trapped in a pit with no way out. How is that lucky? Most beings need years of training to speak with dragons through the mind. You did it instantly. It means you are special, Emma Stone. Your heart is pure, your spirit is strong, and your mind can bridge the gap between our kind and yours. The ancient laws say that when a dragon finds a being of true worth, they can perform the bonding ceremony. A princess of our kind. Above, the world had cast her out. They called her a criminal and threw her away to die. But here in the darkness of the pit, these ancient creatures offered her something else. Purpose, belonging, truth. She stood up and faced Silverscale. "I accept." Emberwing and Moonwhisper joined in, creating a harmony that was both beautiful and strange. Emma felt warmth spreading through her body. It started in her chest and moved outward to her arms and legs. The sensation was not painful, but it was intense. She looked down and gasped. Silver light was flowing from the dragons toward her, wrapping around her like ribbons of smoke. "Do not be afraid," Silverscale's voice echoed in her mind. "This is the ancient bonding. It will change you, but not harm you." She watched in amazement as silver patterns appeared on her skin. They looked like dragon scales, but they were part of her now. The marks spiraled from her wrist up to her shoulder, glowing softly in the dim light. When the humming stopped, Emma felt different, stronger. More aware, she could sense the dragon's emotions like they were her own. Silverscale's ancient wisdom, Emberwing's fierce loyalty, Moonwhisper's joyful energy. "It is done," Silverscale said. "You are now Dragon Princess Emma Stone. You carry our mark and our blessing. And you carry our protection. Any dragon in the galaxy will recognize you as one of us. But most are enslaved by the Scaroth or other species. They use us as weapons and guards. They forgot that we were once a great civilization. There is much you need to see and learn." The walls told stories of dragons flying through space, building cities, teaching other species about honor and wisdom. They entered a massive chamber. Emma stopped and stared in wonder. The walls were covered in writing, thousands of symbols carved deep into the stone. In the center of the room stood a tall pillar with a glowing crystal at its top. "This is our library," Silverscale explained. "Everything we know, everything we have learned is written here. Our history, our laws, our songs. The Scaroth above think we are just animals. They have forgotten that we built the first ships that travel between stars." The words flowed into her mind like she had always known how to read this language. One section of wall caught her attention. It showed images of dragons and other beings standing together. Beneath the images were names and crimes. "What is this?" Emma asked. Burrowing came to stand beside her. "These are the innocents. Every being thrown into this pit, we recorded their name and story. Some we could save, many we could not." A human scientist blamed for an accident. A child from a species Emma did not recognize, thrown into the pit for speaking against the rulers. So many lives destroyed by false accusations. Then Emma saw a name that made her blood run cold. Victor Hayes. He was listed on the wall, but not as a prisoner. He was listed as an accuser. Victor had framed someone else before her, a Scaroth engineer named Krell. The engineer was thrown into the pit 2 years ago and died from the fall. "Victor Hayes," Emma whispered. "He did this before. He framed an innocent person and they died for it. And he was still up there, free and unpunished, while she rotted in this pit. I need to expose him," Emma said. "I need to tell everyone the truth. No one can hear us." But it has not worked for many years. The 3 dragons looked at each other. Finally, Silverscale nodded. "You are dragon chosen now. Perhaps the crystal will respond to you." The crystal began to glow brighter. Colors swirled inside it, blues and greens and purples mixing together. "It is working," Moonwhisper shouted excitedly. Emma closed her eyes and focused. She thought about the Galactic Council. She thought about Valor Prime Station. She pushed her thoughts into the crystal, willing it to connect to the communication networks above. Suddenly, voices filled her mind. Hundreds of voices, all talking at once. Radio signals, video transmissions, data streams. The crystal was tapping into every communication channel in the system. Emma filtered through the noise until she found what she wanted, the official Galactic Council network. She could send a message through this. She could tell everyone what really happened. But she needed proof. Her word alone would not be enough. "Silverscale," Emma said, opening her eyes. "Can you share your memories with me? Can you show me everything you know about the people who were thrown into this pit?" "I can share 800 years of memories, but it will be overwhelming. Are you certain?" "I need to show the galaxy what has been happening here." She saw countless beings falling into the pit. She felt their fear, their confusion, their desperate pleas of innocence. She watched the dragons try to save who they could and mourn those they lost. Emma saw Victor Hayes through the dragon's eyes. 2 years ago, he stood at the edge of the pit, smiling as the engineer Krell fell to his death. The dragons remembered his face perfectly. They remembered how he laughed. When the memory sharing ended, Emma collapsed to her knees. Tears streamed down her face, so much suffering. So much injustice. "I am sorry," Silverscale said gently. "The truth is often painful to bear." The silver scales on her arm glowed brightly. She found the Galactic Council network and pushed through their security systems. The dragon technology was far more advanced than anything the Council used. "This is Commander Emma Stone," she said, speaking clearly into the crystal. Her voice would be transmitted to every Council station, every government building, every news network in the system. "I was thrown into the dragon pit on false charges, but I survived, and I have proof of my innocence." Images appeared in the transmission. Victor Hayes stealing the dragon tears. Victor Hayes planting false evidence in Emma's quarters. Victor Hayes meeting with black market dealers to sell the stolen artifacts. "Lieutenant Victor Hayes framed me for his crimes," Emma continued. "But this is not the first time. 2 years ago, he framed a Scaroth engineer named Krell. That innocent person died in this pit. How many others have suffered because of corrupt people like Hayes? How many innocents have died because no one questioned the accusations?" They saw the faces of innocents their leaders had condemned. On Valor Prime Station, security forces rushed to arrest Victor Hayes, but he had already fled, stealing a small ship and disappearing into space. The evidence Emma provided was undeniable. His crimes were exposed for all to see. Back in the pit, Emma continued her broadcast. "The dragons in this pit are not mindless beasts. They are wise, ancient beings with their own civilization and culture. They have been imprisoned for refusing to kill innocents. They have protected those they could and mourned those they could not save." They saw the intelligence in her eyes, the gentle way she looked at Emma. "These dragons chose me as their princess," Emma said. "Not because I am special, but because they saw truth in my heart. They taught me that real justice requires wisdom, not just punishment. They showed me that mercy is not weakness." For 800 years we have lived in darkness, Silverscale said. We have watched the Scaroth forget their honor. We have seen justice become revenge. We have witnessed innocents die while the guilty walk free. This must change. The dragons were not mindless killing machines. They were guardians of truth. In the capital city, a young Scaroth woman named Zara stood up and shouted, "The human speaks truth. Our leaders have betrayed the old ways. We must free the dragons." Hundreds, then thousands of voices demanding change. The corrupt leaders tried to silence them, but it was too late. The truth had spread too far, too fast. Emma felt the shift happening above. Through her bond with the dragons, she could sense other dragons across the planet awakening, hearing Silverscale's call. Dragons that had been treated as slaves and weapons suddenly remembered who they truly were. "We will not stay in this pit any longer," Imberwing declared through the transmission. His fierce voice carried centuries of suppressed rage. "We will rise, and we will reclaim our dignity." He took a deep breath, and fire erupted from his mouth. But this was not the wild, destructive fire of an animal. This was controlled, precise, ancient dragon fire. Imberwing directed the flames at the walls of the pit, at the weak points where stone met stone. Silverscale and Moonwhisper joined him. 3 streams of dragon fire hit the same spot. The walls began to crack. Rocks fell from above. The entire pit shook with the force of their power. "They are trying to escape," someone shouted in the capital city above. The corrupt Scaroth leaders sent warriors to the pit. "Stop them! Do not let the dragons reach the surface." They stood at the edge, looking down into the glowing depths where dragon fire blazed like a sun. "We will not stop them," Zara shouted at the warriors who came behind. "We will help them. This is what our ancestors would have done." They had grown up hearing stories about the sacred bond between Scaroth and dragons. Those stories spoke of honor, partnership, and mutual respect. When had that changed? When had dragons become prisoners instead of companions? One warrior lowered his weapon. Then another. Then another. In the pit, the walls finally gave way. A massive section of rock collapsed, creating a ramp from the bottom to the surface. Light poured into the darkness, real sunlight for the first time in centuries. Emma climbed onto Imberwing's back. The dragon's scales were warm beneath her. Silverscale and Moonwhisper positioned themselves on either side. "Ready, princess?" Imberwing asked in her mind. Emma gripped the dragon's neck. The silver scales on her arm blazed with light. "Ready." Below, thousands of Scaroth citizens watched in stunned silence. Then someone started cheering. The sound grew louder and louder until the entire crowd was celebrating. Emma looked down and saw Zara and the other young Scaroth waving their arms. They were not afraid. They were joyful. The dragons had returned to the surface after 800 years of imprisonment. Silverscale flew beside Imberwing, his silver scales gleaming in the double sunlight. The old ways are not forgotten after all. There is still hope for this world. They were guardians, teachers, and companions, not weapons of fear. The corrupt Scaroth leaders tried to organize a defense. They commanded their loyal warriors to shoot down the dragons, but most warriors refused. They dropped their weapons and stood with the citizens instead. Emma guided Imberwing toward the Capitol building where the Council of Leaders met. The dragon landed gently in the main plaza. Silverscale and Moonwhisper landed beside him. Emma slid down from Imberwing's back, her feet touching the ground with confidence. The leaders emerged from their building, surrounded by the few guards still loyal to them. The head leader, an old Scaroth named Vorax, glared at Emma with hatred. "You have caused chaos, human," Vorax hissed. "You have turned our people against us. You have freed dangerous beasts into our cities. The only dangerous beings here are those who abuse power and call it justice. We have seen the truth in the Dragon Princess's broadcast. We know what you have done. How many innocents did you condemn? How many lives did you destroy to maintain your power?" They saw the crowds, saw the dragons standing peacefully beside Emma. This was not the violent uprising their leaders had predicted. This was something else. This was their own people demanding change. One by one, the guards lowered their weapons and stepped away from Vorax and the other corrupt leaders. "You are relieved of your positions," Zara announced. "By the will of the people and the ancient dragon law, we remove you from power. New leaders will be chosen, leaders who remember honor and truth." Vorax fell silent and bowed his head in defeat. Over the next few days, Emma helped guide the transition of power. The young Scaroth citizens, with the wisdom of the freed dragons, established a new government, one that valued justice over revenge, truth over convenience. A message arrived from the Galactic Council. They apologized to Emma for the false conviction. They offered to reinstate her position as commander and give her any assignment she wanted. They even promised to hunt down Victor Hayes and bring him to real justice. Emma sat in the sacred chamber deep below the surface, now transformed from a prison into a sanctuary. The walls still held the library of dragon knowledge, but now Scaroth scholars came to learn and study. The pit had become a place of education instead of death. "Will you return to the stars?" Moonwhisper asked. The young dragon rested her head on Emma's lap. "Will you go back to your old life?" She could return to her career, clear her name completely, and continue her work as a diplomat. But another part of her had changed. The bonding ceremony had done more than mark her skin. It had shown her a new purpose, a deeper calling. "No," Emma said finally. "My old life is gone. I am someone different now." It glowed steadily now, fully repaired and connected to networks across the galaxy. "I will stay here as the Dragon Princess and Ambassador," Emma said. "There are dragons on other worlds who are still enslaved and forgotten. Species across the galaxy who have lost touch with honor and wisdom. I can help bridge that gap. I can teach what the dragons taught me. Voices that speak truth and seek understanding instead of conflict." She would establish the first human-dragon cultural exchange center right here on the Scaroth homeworld. A place where any species could come to learn from dragon wisdom, to study their ancient knowledge, and to remember the importance of justice tempered with mercy. The council approved immediately. They provided funding and resources. They recognized that Emma had accomplished something no diplomat had done before. She had healed a centuries-old wound and restored a lost civilization to its rightful place. Weeks passed. The pit was fully transformed. The dark prison became a beautiful sanctuary with gardens, libraries, and meeting halls. Young beings from dozens of species came to study. They learned dragon language, dragon history, and dragon philosophy. Emma stood at the edge of the former pit one evening, watching the orange sunset. Zara approached and stood beside her. "You gave us back our honor," Zara said quietly. "You helped us remember who we were supposed to be. I just helped you see what was already there." She had been cast into darkness as punishment for a crime she did not commit. But in that darkness, she found her true purpose. She found family in the dragons who chose her. She found strength in standing for truth even when everyone called her a liar. The galaxy was changing because one person refused to accept injustice. Because 3 dragons chose to protect innocence instead of destroying it. Because a young woman became a bridge between species that had forgotten how to trust each other. Emma touched the silver scales on her arm. They were warm, always warm, a reminder of the bond she shared with the dragons. She was no longer just Commander Emma Stone. She was the Dragon Princess, guardian of truth and teacher of the old ways. And she was finally home. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.